What if I told you that everything you believe about death, about it being the end, is a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep you afraid? From the moment you were born, the world began feeding you a narrative that death is final, that it is the ultimate goodbye, the last page in the book of your existence. You were handed stories wrapped in grief, clothed in black, spoken of in hushed voices. You were taught to fear it, to resist it, to run from it at all costs. But what if that narrative was never true? What if death is not an end at all but a transition, an awakening? Take a moment right now and ask yourself, where did your beliefs about death even come from? Did you choose them freely, or were they given to you? Subtly woven into films, sermons, textbooks, and even the conversations of adults you trusted as a child. Most people never stop to ask that question. They move through life as if the body is all there is, as if the silence that follows your last breath is the same as nothingness. But deep inside you, there's always been a quiet voice, one you've perhaps ignored or dismissed, a voice that whispers, "There's more to this existence than what meets the eye." You've likely felt it during those strange moments of déjà vu, or in dreams that feel more real than waking life. You may have sensed it during the death of a loved one, when the room suddenly became still and you knew something greater had just passed through. You may have even said things like, "I feel their presence," without realizing that what you were expressing was the survival of consciousness, the continuation of soul. But the world told you not to believe in that. The world told you to doubt your own intuition. It said, "What you see is all there is." Yet even science now struggles to explain what consciousness actually is, where it comes from, where it goes. The brain, they say, is like a receiver, but a receiver doesn't create the signal. It just picks it up. So what happens when the receiver stops functioning? Does the signal die, or does it simply go elsewhere? The illusion of finality is powerful because it feeds on fear, and fear makes you controllable. If you believe that your only existence is this one fragile life, then every decision becomes driven by survival. You strive to accumulate, to succeed, to avoid risk. You live in a cage made of time. But the moment you begin to question the illusion, something within you begins to shift. You stop being afraid of endings because you realize that there are none. Let's go deeper. Why do so many spiritual traditions, completely independent of one another, across continents and centuries, speak of life after death? From the ancient Egyptians to Hindu sages, from indigenous shamans to mystics in the East, all carried the same fundamental knowing, that we are souls, temporarily inhabiting physical forms. That death is a doorway, not a disappearance. And yet, modern culture has tried to bury this truth under skepticism and sarcasm. You're told it's comforting nonsense, that people only believe in an afterlife because they're afraid to die. But that's not true. People who have glimpsed what lies beyond, through near-death experiences, spiritual awakenings, or simply moments of profound silence, often lose their fear of death entirely. Not because they've been brainwashed, but because they've touched something beyond the veil, and returned with a clarity that can't be described, only felt. The irony is, the ones who fear death the most are often those who claim there's nothing after it. Because if they're wrong, everything changes. If you continue after death, then your choices here matter far more than you've been told. Then your consciousness, your energy, your essence, carries consequences and memories into realms your physical eyes cannot yet see. That kind of truth is too vast to fit inside the tidy box of mainstream beliefs. But you are not here to fit in a box. You are here to awaken, and awakening begins with unlearning. It begins by realizing that most of what you were taught about life and death was not based on deep spiritual wisdom, but on fear, control, and a disconnection from the divine. You've been taught to mourn death as if it's a punishment, as if it steals what can never be returned. But what if you began to see death for what it truly is? A return to origin, a shedding of the temporary in order to reclaim the eternal. You are not your body. You are not your name, your age, your job, or your story. These are roles you play in the grand theater of existence. And when this particular act ends, you do not vanish. You simply step backstage, where the eternal light of your soul was never extinguished to begin with. Look around you. Nature itself doesn't believe in endings. The seed becomes the flower becomes compost, and the compost feeds the next seed. The wave rises and falls, but the ocean remains. Everything is in motion, in transformation, in evolution. Nothing is truly lost. Energy cannot be destroyed. It only changes form. So why would your soul be any different? The truth is, you've been sensing it all along. That subtle awareness when you're sitting in silence and feel something deeper move through you, the invisible connection you feel to someone who's passed, the feeling that this life is a chapter in a much larger book. These aren't hallucinations. They're invitations, clues left behind by your higher self, reminding you that death is not your enemy, it is your liberation. And once you release the illusion of finality, something incredible begins to happen. You start living differently. You start loving more openly, forgiving more easily, and choosing alignment over achievement. You stop fearing the passage of time because you know you are not racing toward an end, you are unfolding into eternity. So ask yourself now, in the quiet of your own heart, what if this is true? What if you've always existed, and always will? What if death is just the name we've given to a threshold we've forgotten how to cross consciously? You don't have to have all the answers today, but you do have to begin questioning, because questioning is the first step toward remembering. And once you remember who you are, that eternal, boundless awareness simply having a human experience, then death loses its grip on you forever. Not because it disappears, but because you see it clearly, for the first time. Not as an ending, but as a beginning, disguised in silence. And when that moment comes for you, when you take your last breath in this body, you won't be afraid. Because you'll know, you'll remember, you were never meant to end, you were always meant to transcend. You've heard the stories, maybe you've even dismissed them, but what if you were the one, lying on that hospital bed, machines buzzing, voices fading into echoes, and suddenly, silence? A strange stillness takes over, not frightening, but oddly calm. Then, in the very next moment, you're no longer inside your body. You're hovering above it, watching the scene unfold like a dream you forgot you were in. Nurses rushing, a doctor muttering something grim, a loved one sobbing in the hallway. And yet, you feel alive, more alive than ever before. There is no pain, no confusion. In fact, you're more aware than you've ever been. Your senses are heightened, not dulled. You can perceive not just the actions in the room, but the intentions behind them, the fear in someone's breath, the hope in someone's prayer. Everything seems to shimmer with a strange clarity. You aren't bound by weight or form. You can move, but without motion. Think, but without the brain. You understand, not through logic, but through instant knowing. This is the moment countless near-death experiencers describe, the precise instant when they realize they are not the body. And if you're honest with yourself, there's a part of you that already knows this to be true. You've felt it before in glimpses, in deep meditation, in dreams that felt more real than waking life, in those unexplainable moments when your mind went quiet and your heart just knew. This isn't fantasy. It's remembrance. The moment you leave your body isn't a moment of ending, it's a moment of unbinding. You're no longer tethered to skin or bone or history. You are still you, only lighter, freer, expanded. Many who have crossed this threshold and returned describe the initial separation as seamless. One moment they were in agony, clinging to life. The next, they were floating, released, surrounded by an indescribable peace. And the most surprising part? They weren't afraid. Quite the opposite. They felt safe, protected by a presence they couldn't always name, but deeply recognized. Some describe it as love itself, not a feeling, but a field warm, conscious, and intelligent. Think about that for a moment. You have spent your entire life being told that death is something to fear, that it is darkness, silence, an erasure of all that you are. But what if the moment of your death is actually the moment you awaken to what you've always been? What if it's the soft dissolving of the illusion of separation, the end of a dream that never really belonged to you? What makes these experiences so compelling is not just the consistency of the reports, but the transformation they inspire. People return with a changed understanding of reality. They no longer fear death because they've tasted the truth. And the truth is this: you are not the body lying still on the table. You are not the medical file being passed between hands. You are not the brain waves or heart monitor or failing breath. You are the awareness watching it all unfold. And in that awareness, everything changes. You no longer see with your eyes, you perceive with your essence. You don't hear in the traditional sense. Instead, you receive impressions, fully formed and undeniable. You don't move by walking, you move by intention. Think of someone, and you're beside them. Think of a place, and you're there. The laws that govern this realm are not bound by physics, they're bound by energy, resonance, consciousness. It's in this early moment of separation that many people report encountering beings of light, or past loved ones, or a presence so vast and gentle it defies all earthly comparison. Sometimes, these presences communicate not with words, but with waves of understanding. Imagine a single moment of eye contact filling you with a lifetime of wisdom, a smile unraveling every fear you ever had. This is what the soul remembers. This is what you will remember too. But it's not just what people see or feel, it's the undeniable clarity of their identity. They know, beyond doubt, that they still exist. They are not a ghost. They are not lost. They are not dreaming. They are more themselves than they have ever been. The pain, the grief, the mental chatter, all of it falls away like a garment that was never truly yours. And what remains is consciousness, pure, aware, and radiant. Sometimes, the soul lingers, watching loved ones grieve, whispering reassurance they can't yet hear. Sometimes it travels, gliding through walls and rooftops, witnessing conversations it shouldn't logically have access to. And yet, upon returning to life, people recall these moments in stunning detail. What someone was wearing 2 floors away, a conversation held in secret, a gesture made in another room. And over, the reports are validated. These aren't hallucinations. They're observations made by a consciousness that was momentarily freed from the cage of the body. So what does this mean for you? It means that the story doesn't end where they told you it does. It means that when your final breath comes, you won't be erased, you'll be released, and you won't be alone. There is a structure, a sequence, a sacred unfolding that happens in that moment, and you will be held through all of it. You may worry about your attachments, your loved ones, your dreams, your unfinished plans. But in that moment, you'll see the bigger picture. You'll understand why certain things happened the way they did. You'll feel gratitude where once there was regret, forgiveness where once there was pain, love where once there was loss. That's not fantasy. That's the wisdom of a soul no longer bound by fear. And yes, some people return. Not all who step beyond, stay beyond. Some are sent back, sometimes with reluctance. But they carry with them something they never had before, a knowing that changes everything. They live differently. They love more deeply. They stop wasting time. Because they've seen that time is just a costume we wear here, and when it falls away, what's left is the eternal presence of who you truly are. You don't have to wait until death to remember this. You can feel it now. You can begin to live from that space, where you are not just your name, your age, your story. You are the awareness behind the story, the soul behind the eyes, the quiet observer who will still be watching long after the final scene has played out. The moment you leave the body is not the end of your life, it's the return to it, the return to a truer self, one that was always here, just waiting beneath the surface of things. And when that moment comes for you, and it will, you won't be afraid. You'll recognize it, like waking from a dream into a sunrise you somehow always remembered. What if the body you see in the mirror isn't really you? What if the form you inhabit is just a temporary costume, worn for a short scene in a much larger play? You've been conditioned to believe that your body defines you, that the shape of your face, the sound of your voice, the rhythm of your heartbeat, is who you are. But that's not the truth. That's just the container, and you are something far greater than anything that could ever be contained. Think about it. When you close your eyes and remember a moment from your past, you can still feel it vividly. You see the people, hear the sounds, recall the emotions, but who is doing the remembering? The body you had then isn't the body you have now. Your cells have regenerated, your appearance has changed, your thoughts have evolved, and yet there's a core presence inside you that hasn't aged a day. That silent awareness, the part of you that watches, that remembers, that feels beyond the skin, that's who you truly are. Science tells us that the human body is in a constant state of change. Every 7 to 10 years, nearly every cell in your body has been replaced. Your skeleton regenerates, your skin renews. Even the neurons in your brain, once thought to be permanent, now show signs of plasticity and turnover. So, if everything about your physical form is always shifting, what remains? What is the unchanging essence behind your eyes? You've likely heard stories of people who've had near-death experiences. Many describe the moment they left their physical form as liberating. They floated above their body and saw it lying lifeless below. But they didn't feel dead. They felt alive, clear, free. They could see and hear what was happening in the room, sometimes even in the next one over. They recalled conversations, procedures, exact details they shouldn't have had access to. These aren't hallucinations or dreams, these are conscious moments where the soul, the true self, separated from the body and still remained aware. If you can watch your body from above, if you can observe it like an object in space, then you cannot be that body. You must be the observer, the witness, the essence that does not depend on organs, bones, or breath to exist. You are not the eyes, but the one who sees through them, not the ears, but the one who listens behind them, not the brain, but the presence that uses it to interact with this world for a time. From the moment you were born, your identity has been shaped around your body. You were given a name, assigned a gender, told what you looked like, what you should wear, how you should behave. Your physical traits became the foundation of who others believed you to be, and so you learned to identify with them. But underneath all of that, there has always been something deeper, a quiet awareness that has been watching since the beginning. You've felt it in moments of deep stillness, when you're sitting in nature and lose all sense of time, when you're lost in music or meditation and suddenly forget where you are, even who you are. When something beautiful moves you to tears and you feel yourself expand beyond the limits of your body. Those are glimpses of your true self, the part of you that existed before this body, and will continue to exist long after it has returned to the earth. Consider this. You don't say, "I am body." You say, "This is my body." You refer to it as something you possess, my hand, my heart, my face. You instinctively speak of it as something separate, something that belongs to you but is not you. That's because deep down, you already know the truth. You are the owner of the body, the inhabitant, the consciousness residing within. This distinction is not just spiritual poetry. It has practical implications that can transform your life. When you begin to realize that you are not your body, your fears begin to fade. You stop obsessing over every wrinkle, every flaw, every sign of aging. You stop measuring your worth by how much you weigh or how attractive you appear. You begin to see your body as a sacred tool, a vessel for experience, not a definition of your value. And when the time comes to leave this body behind, you will not be afraid, because you'll remember what you are. You'll know that death is not a loss, but a return. A release from the limitations of form into the fullness of your being. You are not dying. You are simply stepping out of the vehicle you used for this part of your journey. It's like taking off a jacket. The jacket kept you warm, protected you, carried your scent. But when the weather changes, you don't grieve the jacket. You hang it up and move on. In the same way, your soul will one day shed the body not because something went wrong, but because the lesson was complete. The experience was fulfilled. The soul continues. Always, even in your dreams, this truth plays itself out. Your dream body walks, talks, feels pain and pleasure, but your physical body lies still in bed. So, who is having the dream? Who is experiencing those moments? There is something within you that transcends the waking body and enters other realms, other dimensions, while your physical form rests. Dreams, astral projections, meditative journeys all hint at the same truth. The body is not the limit of yourself. And yet, the body is sacred. It is not to be rejected or denied. It is to be honored as a divine instrument, a mirror of the spirit made manifest. It allows you to touch, taste, feel, and express. It gives you the ability to create, to hold, to dance. But it is not the source of life. The source is you, the awareness, the spark, the soul that chose this form for a reason. So, the next time you look at yourself in the mirror, look deeper. See the light in your eyes that doesn't change, even as the lines on your face grow. Feel the stillness inside that watches your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. Realize that every breath is a reminder. You are the one breathing, not the breath itself. You are not your body. You are the soul that moves it. You are the eternal presence that chose to wear this form for a time. And when the time comes to take it off, you will not vanish. You will rise. You will remember, because you've never been the body. You've always been the light behind it. From the quiet corners of a hospital room in Tokyo to the sunlit streets of a village in Mexico, people from every culture and every background have returned from the brink of death with stories that sound hauntingly similar. It doesn't matter if they were raised in a Christian household, grew up with no religious influence at all, or followed ancient spiritual practices from their native land. They describe something that transcends belief systems and languages, a universal experience that seems to point to something far greater than coincidence. These are the patterns of near-death experiences, and their consistency is one of the most compelling clues that your consciousness is not confined to your physical body, nor extinguished at the moment of death. You've likely heard the stories. Someone flatlines on the operating table. There's panic in the room. The machines scream. Doctors move quickly. And yet, as their body lies unresponsive, the person feels themselves rising, not metaphorically, but literally. They feel themselves lift from their physical form and watch from above. They see the expressions on the faces of nurses. They hear the conversations taking place in the next room. Sometimes, they even describe events happening miles away from their body, with uncanny accuracy. This is often the first phase, the out-of-body observation. It's calm, clear, and shockingly neutral. There's no panic, no disorientation, only presence, only peace. From there, the experience deepens. Many describe the sensation of moving through a tunnel or a passageway, often filled with light that seems to beckon. This tunnel is not a physical structure, yet it feels more real than anything they've ever known. It carries them, not with motion, but with intention. A quiet knowing fills them, as if they are being led, as if something ancient and intelligent is guiding them through a transition that has happened countless times before. The fear that they may have had in life, the fear of death, dissolves completely. What replaces it is often described as peace, or more accurately, a feeling of being home. Then comes the encounter. Sometimes it is with a figure of light, a guide, or an unseen presence that radiates deep, unconditional love. Sometimes it is with departed loved ones who greet them, not with sadness, but with joy and recognition. The reunion is not verbal, it is vibrational. The communication is instant and complete. No words are needed because everything is understood simultaneously. Love is not a sentiment here, it is the air they breathe, it is the medium in which everything else exists. This love doesn't judge, doesn't ask questions, doesn't require repentance. It simply is. It surrounds them. It knows them. And then, in one of the most extraordinary features of these experiences, the life review begins. This is not a judgment or a sentencing. It's not a courtroom drama or a ledger of sins and virtues. It's something much more intimate. The individual relives their entire life not in linear time, but all at once. They feel every choice, every word, every action, but also, and more profoundly, they feel how those choices impacted others. If they spoke harshly to someone, they feel the pain it caused. If they extended kindness, they feel the ripple of healing it created. It is not a punishment, it is a revelation, a full and clear understanding of the energetic fingerprint they left on the world. Strangely, the review isn't about shame or guilt, it is about clarity. It offers a panoramic view of one's existence and provides insight into the soul's journey through the human experience. Many report that during the life review, they were not judged by any divine being, but were invited to observe with compassion and understanding. They were their own witness, they were their own teacher, and in that witnessing, transformation began. Perhaps the most fascinating element is that this pattern shows up across continents, religions, and generations. A man in South Africa, a child in Brazil, a woman in Norway, they all return with the same basic structure in their stories: separation from the body, movement through a tunnel, encounter with light or beings of love, a profound life review, and often a choice or a request to return. Some are told they must go back, that their time is not yet complete. Others are given the option and choose to return because of loved ones or unfinished purpose. But nearly all of them come back changed. They no longer fear death. In fact, they often describe it as beautiful. They no longer see others as separate from themselves. They speak of unity, of oneness, of a deep interconnectedness that stretches beyond nationality, religion, or belief. They are more present in life, more compassionate, more focused on love, not because they read it in a book, but because they experienced it firsthand. Skeptics argue that these experiences are merely the result of a dying brain, that they are chemical hallucinations produced by trauma, oxygen deprivation, or neural misfiring. But this explanation falls short in many ways. It doesn't account for the verifiable observations people report while their brain shows no signs of function. It doesn't explain how blind individuals, some from birth, describe visual details during their experience, details they could not possibly know through physical senses. It doesn't explain why these experiences often produce long-term personality changes, increased empathy, and heightened spiritual awareness. Hallucinations don't tend to have that kind of transformative power. When thousands upon thousands of people across different cultures and time periods describe the same pattern, the same progression, and the same outcomes, it forces us to reconsider what we think we know about consciousness. Maybe consciousness is not created by the brain, maybe the brain is more like a receiver, and when the signal is strong enough, or when the body is no longer a barrier, we experience the full transmission. That signal, that awareness, that you continues. That is what these experiences suggest, and the pattern itself is the proof. Not in the way science demands with charts and instruments, but in the way truth shows itself through consistency, impact, and resonance. These experiences are not proof of death, they are proof of continuity. What does this mean for you? It means that when your time comes, you will not be met by void or oblivion. You will be met by clarity, by connection, by love. You will see yourself not just the face in the mirror, but the soul behind the life. And you will understand things that no philosophy or religion could ever explain with words. You will know yourself as eternal, and knowing that now, even in part, can change everything about the way you live. You were never meant to be afraid of death. You were meant to remember. You were meant to live in such a way that when that tunnel opens and the light calls you forward, you walk with peace in your heart and a quiet smile on your soul, because you'll recognize the path, because you've always known. What if I told you that every moment of your life, every thought, every action, every word you've ever spoken, still exists, etched not just in memory, but in energy? That nothing is truly lost or forgotten, and one day, you will stand face to face with the full, unfiltered truth of your life, not as punishment, not as judgment, but as pure understanding. The life review is not a myth. It is one of the most consistent experiences reported by those who have crossed the threshold of death and returned, and what they describe is far more profound than anything you've ever imagined. Imagine this. You find yourself outside your body, free from pain, free from the weight of identity, floating in stillness. There is no time, no sound, no fear, only awareness. And then, without warning, your life begins to unfold before you. But this is not like watching an old home movie. You are not just seeing your life, you are reliving it, in full detail. Every moment, no matter how small, plays out all around you. The smells, the sounds, the feelings, it all returns. But here is the astonishing part. You don't just feel your own emotions, you feel the emotions of the people you interacted with. You feel the joy you gave, and the pain you caused. You experience it all, not from your perspective, but from theirs. If you said something cruel to someone in passing, a comment you forgot the next day, you will feel how it pierced their heart. If you helped someone in a moment of silence, held a door, offered a kind glance, you will feel the warmth it brought to their soul. The life review isn't about shame or guilt, it's about clarity. It is the soul's way of teaching itself through direct experience, not by reading a list of rights and wrongs, but by becoming awareness itself. Many describe it as a 360-degree, holographic unfolding of life, not linear, not fragmented, but simultaneous. Past, present, and future, blending together in a way that defies earthly comprehension. You see your childhood, your teenage years, your adult choices, your regrets, your triumphs, all appearing not as separate scenes, but as interconnected ripples. Everything you thought was meaningless is revealed to be part of something much larger. Every act of love is amplified. Every intention is magnified. It is not what you did that defines you. It is the energy behind why you did it. In this space, there are no masks. You cannot lie to yourself. You cannot hide behind excuses or denial. The soul sees with total honesty, but with that honesty comes incredible compassion. There is no condemnation, only truth, and within that truth, a kind of sacred awe, because you finally see the ripple effect of your existence. How one moment of kindness created a wave that touched lives you never knew. How one act of anger may have rippled into pain across time and space. You begin to understand that everything is connected, that nothing you do is isolated, that you, in every moment, are shaping reality with your energy. This is why so many who return from near-death experiences describe being transformed. They come back with a deep commitment to love. Not because they were scolded or punished, but because they saw the beauty of it. They saw what love really does, how it spreads, how it heals, how it lingers in the hearts of others long after the moment has passed. And they saw how even the smallest action matters, how consciousness records everything, not to trap you, but to teach you. The life review is not a courtroom. It is not the heavens deciding whether you are good or bad. It is your own soul reflecting on the curriculum of your life. It is the moment you remember why you came here. You see where you grew, where you avoided, where you shined, and where you shut down. And you do not watch it with cruelty. You watch it with wisdom. You finally understand that even your mistakes were lessons in disguise, that even your darkest moments carried seeds of light. In this sacred unfolding, you begin to see patterns, how you responded to the same kind of pain again and again, how certain fears drove your decisions, how you held back your truth to avoid conflict. And you also see where you chose love, even when it was hard. You see the moments you stayed present, the times you followed your intuition, the choices that aligned with your soul, even when they made no sense to others. What makes the life review so profound is that it bypasses the ego. You don't defend yourself. You don't justify your actions. You simply see, and in seeing, you awaken. You remember who you were before the noise of the world told you who to be. You remember the purity of your original essence, the part of you that only wanted to grow, to give, to evolve. And in that remembering, you forgive yourself. You realize you were doing the best you could with the level of awareness you had at the time. You forgive others too, because you see their wounds, their fears, their limitations. You see the chain of trauma that runs through humanity, and you feel a deep desire to break that chain with love. You might wonder, how can this be possible? How could every moment of your life be recorded, remembered, relived? Because your consciousness is not limited by time. Your soul is an energetic being, and energy does not forget. Just as a song carries every note within it, just as a flame carries the memory of the fire, your soul carries every imprint of your experience. This is why the universe is often described as holographic, because every part contains the whole, and your life is part of that whole, a sacred thread in the tapestry of all that is. You are not being judged, you are being shown how powerful you are, shown what love really looks like, shown what matters most, and what matters is not fame, wealth, or achievement. What matters is presence, intention, kindness, connection. What matters is how often you chose to open your heart instead of closing it. How often you showed up with truth instead of hiding behind fear. When you know this, you start to live differently. You speak with more intention. You love with more awareness. You forgive more easily. You stop chasing illusions and start investing in what lasts. You begin to live your life as if every moment matters because it does. One day, you will experience your own life review, not as a punishment, but as a gift, a mirror of your soul's journey. And when that day comes, you will see yourself clearly, lovingly, fully. You will see what a miracle it was to live, to learn, to love in a world so dense and difficult. You will weep, not with regret, but with reverence. And then, when the review is complete, you will choose. You may return to learn more, to heal more, to help more. Or you may move forward into realms your human mind cannot yet imagine. But either way, you will go with clarity, with peace, because you will know the truth. Nothing is lost, nothing was wasted, every breath mattered, every choice echoed, and your soul, in all its imperfections, was always worthy of love. Close your eyes and try to imagine a moment where there is no before, no after, just now. Not the kind of now you measure with a clock or a calendar, but a deeper now, one that has no edges. This is the space many near-death experiencers describe when they speak about what happens after they leave the body. It's a presence so complete that time itself seems to vanish. There is no ticking, no aging, no waiting. You still exist, but the world you've known, structured by past and future, has dissolved. What's left isn't emptiness, it's awareness, it's clarity, and it feels more real than anything you've ever touched or seen. In this space, nothing moves, because nothing needs to. Movement implies distance, but there is no distance here. It implies delay, but there is no waiting here, either. You think, and the thought becomes. You wonder, and the knowing arrives. You don't search, you remember. It's not a place in the way you understand places. There are no coordinates, no up or down, no borders, and yet, when you're in it, it feels familiar. Not because you've been there in this life, but because it's where your consciousness comes from. It's the realm your soul calls home. Many who return from this experience struggle to find words for it. They say it's like being everywhere and nowhere at once, like floating in a sea of light that knows your name. They describe being surrounded by a presence that sees all of them, not just their story or their identity, but the full essence of who they are. And in that presence, they feel seen without being judged, known without needing to explain, loved without conditions. Some try to describe it using metaphors, like standing in the center of a sphere made of intelligence and love, like being a single note in a symphony where you are the song and the listener all at once, like merging with something vast and beautiful while still somehow remaining yourself. There's a sense of being expanded beyond what the mind can grasp. You're not confined to one location or even one identity. You are awareness itself, pure, untouched, infinite. This is difficult to comprehend because your entire life has been built inside the framework of time. You wake up and go to sleep. You make plans for the future. You remember the past. Your body ages, your days move forward. But when time dissolves, something else takes its place, a deeper intelligence. A presence that holds everything at once. In that state, you don't wonder what will happen next, because everything is already happening. You're not dwelling on what has been, because everything you've ever been is right there with you. It's as if the soul exists as a whole, not in pieces scattered across a timeline. Here, your childhood, your present life, even your future choices are all visible at once. Not like watching a movie reel, but like standing inside a living mosaic of your existence. Every version of you is held in love, every moment has meaning, every experience is understood, and all of it is happening now. This state beyond time isn't chaotic, it's deeply peaceful. It brings with it a stillness that isn't empty, but full of insight, full of love, full of knowing. There's no stress, no pressure, no rush, nothing to get done, nothing to prove. You aren't trying to survive or succeed or fix anything, you're just being, and that being is enough. More than enough, it's radiant. Many people who have touched this timeless state report a kind of soul-level relaxation, like an exhale they didn't know they were holding, a melting of fear, a surrender into something that has been holding them all along. They realize that the tension of this life, the striving, the worrying, the running, is not necessary in that dimension. They see how much of it was built on illusion, the illusion of separateness, the illusion of scarcity, the illusion of time itself. And in that moment, there's a choice. Some are invited to return, some are asked to go back, and almost universally, they describe that decision as difficult. Not because what they're returning to is bad, but because what they are leaving behind is so overwhelmingly beautiful, peaceful, and true. They've experienced life outside of time, they've remembered who they really are. What makes this so powerful is that it changes how they see everything after. Time doesn't hold them captive anymore. They aren't as afraid of aging or endings. They understand that the soul doesn't travel in a straight line. It expands, it learns, it experiences, but it never ends, and it never begins. It simply is. This awareness doesn't erase the challenges of life. People still face loss, pain, and difficulty. But their relationship with those things changes. They begin to see the struggles as part of a larger pattern, a pattern that exists not in time, but in growth. They become less reactive, more present, more compassionate. Because once you know that everything you are exists outside the ticking of a clock, you stop clinging, you stop fearing, you begin to live with openness instead of defense. The realm beyond time doesn't belong to one religion or philosophy. It has been described by mystics, sages, and seekers across the ages. It is the space spoken of in ancient texts and modern revelations. It's the same dimension people glimpse during deep meditation, intense prayer, or even spontaneous moments of stillness. It's not somewhere you go, it's something you awaken to. And that awakening doesn't require death, it only requires presence. You can taste that timelessness here, in the spaces between your thoughts, in the silence beneath your breath, in the awareness that observes without needing to label. Every time you step out of the mental noise and into that spacious stillness, you're aligning with that eternal part of you, the part that doesn't age, the part that has no fear, the part that already knows. There is great comfort in knowing that you will not be lost in the unraveling of time. You will not fade into non-existence. You are not a temporary spark, waiting to be extinguished. You are an eternal flame, burning beyond the limits of time and space. And when the moment comes that your physical life dissolves, you will awaken into that truth. You will remember the realm where you've always existed, and you will not be afraid. What lies beyond this world is not a void, it is fullness, it is light, it is presence beyond measurement, and you are already connected to it, not through belief, but through being. Through awareness, through love, you still exist when time disappears, because what you truly are was never built by time to begin with. It was built by eternity, and eternity is where you return. What if death isn't a separation, but a reunion? What if the souls you thought you lost, the ones who left this physical world before you, are not gone at all, but waiting just beyond the veil, watching, guiding, and preparing for the moment you return? You've been taught to think of death as goodbye, a cold, distant ending filled with absence and longing. But for many who have touched the other side, the truth is something much more beautiful. Beyond this life, there is a homecoming, and at the center of that homecoming are the ones you've loved and lost. When your spirit leaves your body, one of the first things that many experiencers describe is being welcomed. Not by strangers, not by unfamiliar beings, but by those they loved most deeply in life. Sometimes it's a parent, a sibling, a child, or a grandparent. Other times, it's a beloved friend, a mentor, or even a cherished animal companion. The moment of reunion is not vague or dreamlike, it is crystal clear, it feels more real than anything on earth. And in that moment, there is no fear, no confusion, no pain, only recognition, deep, overwhelming recognition. You don't need to speak. Words are unnecessary in this space. Communication is immediate and pure. You feel them before you see them. You know who they are, not just by their appearance, but by their energy, their soul, their essence. It's the feeling you always remembered when they hugged you, or the way their presence filled a room. That resonance is eternal, it never fades. In this realm, communication isn't bound by language or sound, it is telepathic, instantaneous. You share thoughts, memories, emotions, and it happens all at once. There is no misunderstanding. There is no need to explain. They know you, and you know them. For those who have felt haunted by regret, by things left unsaid or undone, this moment is healing beyond words, because on the other side, the soul sees clearly. There is no blame, there is no resentment. All is understood. If there was pain between you in life, it is dissolved in the presence of truth. They see your intention, they feel your sorrow, and they offer something the living rarely can: complete and unconditional forgiveness. Not because they are being generous, but because the soul recognizes that everything you did was rooted in your level of awareness at the time. There is no judgment, only love. The emotional power of these reunions is impossible to describe with earthly language. Many say it's like every good memory, every pure feeling of love they ever experienced, multiplied by 1,000 and poured into a single, timeless moment. Others say it feels like coming home after a long and lonely journey, that, for the first time in forever, they remember who they are and where they truly belong. This home is not a place on a map. It is a frequency, a dimension of love so complete that it dissolves every scar you carried in life, and those who meet you there hold space for your return with tenderness and reverence. But these reunions are not always limited to people you knew in your current lifetime. Sometimes, you encounter souls who feel deeply familiar, even if you don't recognize them from your earthly experience. They may have shared past lives with you. They may be part of your soul group, Reist, the cluster of souls you travel with across incarnations, learning and evolving together. When you meet them, there's an immediate sense of connection, as if no time has passed, as if the bond never broke, because it never did. These souls may have played many roles in your different lives. A brother in one life, a teacher in another, a lover in a third, but the love remains constant. The relationship transcends the temporary roles, and when you reunite, the memories return. You begin to remember lives you had forgotten, agreements you made, lessons you chose to learn, and through this remembering, the pain of separation fades. You realize you were never alone. There are also accounts of being greeted by ancestors, Roan 4, those from generations past whom you never met in physical form. Yet, somehow, you know them. Their eyes, their energy, their essence feels like home. They stand beside you, proud and joyful, ready to welcome you back into the tapestry of your spiritual lineage. In these moments, you see that your life on earth was part of something much larger. You carried the dreams of those who came before you, you healed wounds that stretched across generations, and now, they greet you not just with love, but with gratitude. Animals are often part of these reunions as well. Pets that were with you in life return to greet you with the same unconditional love they gave you on earth. You feel their joy, their playfulness, their loyalty. They too are souls, and their bond with you was never accidental. It was chosen. You feel it in their presence, that they too were part of your spiritual journey. These reunions offer more than comfort, they offer truth. They remind you that love never dies, that soul connection cannot be severed by time, space, or even death. You begin to understand that those who leave this world never leave you. They remain close, often guiding you through subtle nudges, dreams, and synchronicities. And when your time comes, they will be there, not waiting in silence, but celebrating your return. This truth changes how you live. When you realize you will one day reunite with those you love, the grief you carry begins to soften. You still miss them, of course. The absence is still felt. But it's no longer filled with despair. Instead, it becomes sacred, a space of connection, not loss. A space where you honor their memory by living your life with purpose, knowing you will see them again. And for those you've yet to meet, souls who have been guiding you from the other side, you begin to feel their presence more deeply. You notice the timing of events, the way a song plays at the right moment, the way you feel a sudden warmth in your chest when you're thinking of them. These are not coincidences. These are reminders that the veil is thin, that the ones you've loved and the ones who love you are never far. One day, when your soul steps beyond this world, you will remember all of this. You will feel the arms around you, the laughter echoing, the recognition in the eyes of those waiting for you. You will walk into a place where nothing is missing, and no love has been lost. And in that moment, every fear you ever had about death will disappear. Not because it no longer matters, but because it never did. The ones who left before you never left at all. They simply went ahead, preparing the path, holding the light, waiting for your return. And when you meet them again, you will know. You never said goodbye. You only ever said, "I'll see you soon." You've likely been taught that your consciousness is something that lives inside your head, a byproduct of electrical signals, a trick of neurons firing in the right pattern. That who you are, your thoughts, your memories, your awareness, emerges from the meat of your brain, like steam rising from heated water. But what if that's not true? What if your brain doesn't create consciousness at all? What if it's just the receiver, the interface? And what if the real you, the observer behind your eyes, the one having this experience right now, has never been inside your body to begin with? This question is not just philosophical. It's central to one of the greatest scientific mysteries of our time, the hard problem of consciousness. Despite decades of research, no one has been able to explain how physical matter gives rise to subjective experience. Scientists can measure brain waves, they can map neural activity, they can see what areas of the brain light up when you feel love or sadness or fear, but they still can't tell you why you experience those feelings. They can't explain why a combination of atoms and molecules should produce awareness at all. The machinery is visible, but the spark, the witness, the you behind it all, remains elusive. And maybe that's because they're asking the wrong question. Maybe consciousness doesn't come from matter. Maybe matter arises within consciousness. This flips the entire model of reality. Instead of being a body that somehow becomes aware, you are awareness itself, momentarily inhabiting a body. You are not the product of your brain, you are the one using it. The same way you use a smartphone to interact with the world, your consciousness uses the brain to interact with this dimension of experience, but when the phone is turned off, the signal still exists. And when your body falls away, the real you remains untouched. The filter theory supports this idea. Rather than being a generator of consciousness, the brain acts as a filter or tuner, narrowing down the vast field of awareness into a manageable stream of experience. Think of it like a radio tuning into one frequency, while countless others still exist in the background. Your brain allows you to function in this particular version of reality. It limits your perception so you can navigate the world. But once the filter is removed, through near-death experiences, deep meditation, or even physical death, the full spectrum of your consciousness returns. You're no longer confined to one station. You become the field itself. This isn't just spiritual metaphor. It's echoed in some of the most cutting-edge theories in quantum physics. Quantum mechanics shows us that at the deepest level, reality is not made of solid matter. It's made of energy, of fields that respond to observation. At the quantum level, particles don't exist in fixed states until they're measured. Observation collapses the wave function. In other words, consciousness affects matter. And if consciousness affects matter, it cannot be secondary to it. It must be fundamental. Some physicists now suggest that consciousness is not something that emerges from the universe, but something the universe emerges within. Max Planck, one of the fathers of quantum theory, once stated that he regarded consciousness as fundamental, that everything else derives from it. This means the universe didn't give birth to you. You, as consciousness, are giving birth to your experience of the universe. Your body is the vessel, your brain is the interface, but the awareness that is you, that pure, witnessing presence, existed long before this body, and will exist long after. People who've had near-death experiences often describe floating above their body with perfect clarity. They describe events, conversations, and details they couldn't possibly have known from the perspective of a lifeless body. And yet, they recall them in stunning accuracy. They speak of a heightened sense of awareness, of being more awake than ever. And these aren't vague dreams or hallucinations. Many of these experiences are verified. Medical staff confirm that the patients were flatlined, no heartbeat, no measurable brain activity, and yet their consciousness remained active. How is that possible? If the brain is required for awareness, it isn't just anecdotal stories. Cases have been documented where individuals saw objects on hospital rooftops, overheard conversations in other rooms, or witnessed events during surgery that they later described in exact detail, despite being clinically dead. These experiences challenge the very assumption that consciousness lives inside the brain. They suggest instead that the brain is a conduit for consciousness, and that when the physical mechanism shuts down, the consciousness continues without it. Imagine a projector and a film. The film holds the story, the light brings it to life, and the projector displays it on a screen. Your body and brain are like the projector. They allow the film of your life to be displayed. But the light, consciousness, is not bound to the machine. When the projector breaks, the light remains. It may no longer be shining on that screen, but it hasn't disappeared. It simply returns to its source, ready to illuminate another story. And this is why you've always had a quiet sense that you're more than just a body. Why you've felt, even if you couldn't explain it, that there is something watching your thoughts, something that doesn't age even as your face changes in the mirror. That silent presence behind your eyes is the same presence that exists in the spaces between your thoughts. It's the part of you that doesn't come and go, the part that remains unchanged through every chapter of your life. This truth becomes even more obvious when you practice deep stillness. In meditation, you begin to notice the layers of your identity peeling back. You are not your name, not your roles, not even your thoughts. You are the awareness of those things. The deeper you go, the more you realize that everything you thought you were is temporary, and yet something remains. Something still watches, still listens, still is. That something is not dependent on your brain's activity. It exists outside of time, beyond space, untouched by biology. It's your true self, your essence, and it doesn't end when the body does. In fact, the body is the temporary illusion. The consciousness is the enduring reality. This is not meant to dismiss the beauty or importance of your physical experience. Your brain is a miraculous tool. It allows you to taste, touch, learn, connect. But it is not you. It is the lens through which you're observing this part of your journey. And when that lens is no longer needed, you don't disappear. You expand. You return to a greater field of being, a dimension not limited by flesh or neurons. So when you look up at the stars and wonder what lies beyond, remember that the same consciousness that observes them also contains them. You are not a fluke of evolution. You are not an accident of biology. You are awareness wearing a human costume for a little while. And when the costume comes off, you will still be here, only freer, lighter, and far more vast than you've ever imagined. You are not inside your brain. You are beyond it. You are the one who has always been watching, and you always will. What if I told you that you're not solid at all, that underneath the illusion of flesh and bone, you're energy in motion, not metaphorically, literally. Every atom in your body vibrates. Every cell hums with frequency. Every thought, every feeling, every breath you take radiates a subtle, energetic signature. And beyond the body, beyond the mind, there is something even more powerful at work, the field that holds it all together. That field is your soul. Not a concept, not a belief, but a living current of conscious energy. And once you understand this, everything about life, begins to shift. You've been raised to believe you are a physical being, anchored to the laws of biology. But what you are is far more fluid. Science already knows this. Quantum physics has revealed that everything we once thought of as solid is mostly empty space, with particles blinking in and out of existence, held together by invisible forces. And consciousness, your awareness, isn't a byproduct of matter. It appears to influence matter. The observer affects the observed, which means that you are not simply living in a world of energy. You are energy, experiencing itself through a temporary form. Ancient spiritual traditions have always known this. They didn't need machines to measure it. They felt it. They mapped the energy centers of the body, understood the flow of life force, gave names to the unseen architecture that modern science is only now beginning to glimpse. From the prana of India, to the chi of China, to the ruach of the Hebrew mystics, every culture has described this energetic essence. And they all point to the same truth. Your soul is not confined to your skin. It radiates. It expands beyond you. It pulses through dimensions invisible to the human eye. You can feel this, even now. When you walk into a room and immediately sense tension, you're reading energy. When someone's presence lifts you without a word, you're receiving frequency. When your heart aches for someone across the world and you feel it as if they're beside you, that's the soul's energy in action. Time and space do not limit it. The soul exists outside the bounds of linear thinking. It speaks in vibration. It moves through resonance. This is why you can be in a crowd and still feel a soul connection with one person across the room, because your energies recognize each other before a single word is spoken. This is why you can meet someone for the first time and feel like you've known them forever. Your bodies are strangers, but your fields remember. Your frequencies match. The deeper you tune in to this truth, the more life becomes a dance of vibration rather than circumstance. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning your frequency. You realize that what you attract is not based on want, but on resonance. And that resonance is shaped by your state of being. This is also why the soul cannot die, because energy cannot be destroyed. It only changes form. This is not theory, this is physics. And if the soul is energy, not an object, not a fixed identity, but a field of conscious vibration, no, then death is not an end. It is a shift, a transition from one vibrational state to another. Like water turning to vapor, or music fading into silence, the essence continues. It always has. Near-death experiences often describe this. The moment the soul leaves the body, it is described not as fear or fading, but as expansion, a sudden lightness, a deep sense of peace. Many speak of looking back at their body the way you might look at a garment you've just taken off. No attachment, no sorrow, just awareness. Because they know they are not the garment, they are the light that animated it. In the energetic realm, communication is instantaneous. There's no need for language. Emotions are felt completely. Truth is understood without argument. The soul vibrates in harmony with other souls, forming communities of light, soul groups, that travel together across lifetimes, growing through experience. When one soul evolves, the others rise with it. It's all connected, all resonating, within a great cosmic rhythm. Even emotions are frequencies. Love vibrates high, fear vibrates low, gratitude lifts you, shame compresses you. When your soul is aligned with truth, your frequency rises. When you live from love, you attract more light. When you speak from the heart, your words carry power. This isn't magic, it's resonance, and the soul understands this language perfectly. The challenge is that, in this physical world, you're surrounded by density. The human experience is heavy, emotions get tangled, thoughts loop, trauma stores itself in the body. And the soul, though untouched at its core, can become clouded by the noise of life. That's why spiritual practices exist, not to earn enlightenment, but to remember it. To peel back the layers and realign with your original vibration. Meditation, breathwork, prayer, sound healing, silence, rituals, these aren't rituals. Their tuning forks. They help you remember your note in the symphony of creation. You've felt it before. In a moment of deep stillness, when time disappears and all that remains is presence. Or when you're moved to tears by beauty so pure it doesn't make sense. Or when you're with someone you love, and nothing needs to be said. That's your soul. That's the frequency beneath the noise. The part of you that was never born and will never die. The eternal hum beneath your story. This understanding can change everything. Because when you know your energy, you stop fearing endings. You start honoring cycles. You understand that grief is not about loss, but about transformation. That death is not a wall, but a doorway. And on the other side, the frequency continues. The soul expands. The vibration rises. And all that was once forgotten is remembered in light. This is why awakening feels like returning. Because it is. You are not learning anything new. You are remembering what was always true. That you are not just a person. You are a pulse of divine frequency. You are not separate. You are a wavelength of Source itself. And every choice you make, every emotion you feel, every intention you hold, sends out ripples into the infinite field. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is unnoticed. Everything vibrates. So when you breathe, breathe with presence. When you speak, speak with clarity. When you love, love with awareness. Because your soul is not an idea. It is an active force, alive and radiant, shaping the fabric of your reality. And when the body is finally released, the soul doesn't vanish. It rises. It remembers. It returns to the wider field from which it came. And in that moment, you will see that you never needed to hold on to this life with fear. Because your true self was never limited to it. You were never your name, never your story, never your skin. You are vibration, you are frequency, and you are forever. When your body takes its final breath, and the veil between this world and the next begins to lift, what happens is not random or chaotic. It follows a pattern. Not one that science can yet fully quantify, but one that has been described with striking consistency through sacred texts, mystical insight, and direct personal experience. Across time and culture, countless souls have spoken of the journey that begins after death, NDTs, a sequence of energetic states, visions, and choices that unfold in a realm just beyond the physical. This transitional phase is not a void or a limbo. It is a sacred passage, often referred to in Tibetan teachings as the bardo. But even if you've never heard that term before, you will walk through these states when your time here comes to an end. The bardo is not just one place. It is a series of subtle dimensions your soul travels through after the body releases. Each stage holds lessons, reflections, and opportunities for awakening. These are not punishments or rewards. They are mirrors, showing you the truth of your consciousness, stripped of the distractions of form. And the more you prepare for this journey while still alive, the more clarity you will carry with you when the time arrives. The first state begins immediately after death. You find yourself floating outside your body, watching the scene unfold, as if through a dream that has suddenly become more vivid than anything you ever experienced in life. There is often no fear, only curiosity. You may try to speak to those around you, unaware at first that they cannot hear you. You may attempt to move, only to discover that you are no longer bound by physical laws. You are in a different kind of body now, one made of light and thought and energy. This body responds not to gravity, but to intention. Think of someone, and you are near them. Feel something, and the space around you reflects it. This is the beginning of the transition, and it is more natural than you might expect. In this early stage, many souls describe a deep sense of peace. The heaviness of the physical form is gone. The pain, the confusion, the noise, all of it melts away. What remains is presence, awareness, and then, as the initial stillness deepens, something begins to change. You may see a light in the distance, not a light that shines, but a light that calls. It feels familiar, as though it has always been waiting. Some describe moving toward it through a tunnel or a passage. Others simply feel drawn, as if their soul is being pulled gently into a greater field of knowing. As you move further into this journey, the illusions of the material world fall away completely. And then comes one of the most important phases of the bardo, IMAT, the meeting with the self. This is not a conversation, it is an unveiling. You are shown your life, not from your limited perspective, but from the eyes of everyone you've ever touched. You feel what they felt. You see how your choices rippled through the web of reality. This is not punishment, it is understanding. You are not being judged by a deity or external force. You are remembering your own vibration. You are witnessing the truth of your actions, in the light of absolute clarity. What surprises many souls is that this life review is filled not with shame or pride, but with revelation. The moments you thought were insignificant may glow with importance. The ones you believed were defining may fall away like dust. You begin to understand that it was never about success or failure. It was always about love. How deeply you gave it. How openly you received it. How courageously you shared it, even when it was hard. After this, the journey continues. Some experience realms that feel like landscapes, vast fields of light, flowing rivers of sound, cities of energy that pulse with sacred geometry. Others encounter guides or beings of light who offer comfort, insight, or direction. These presences are not here to command you, they are here to assist you in remembering. Because in this space, remembering is everything. You remember that you are not the life you just lived. You are a soul that has lived many. You remember why you came to Earth, what you hoped to learn, what contracts you made, and you begin to feel into what comes next. In the deeper stages of the bardo, choice becomes central. Some souls move effortlessly into higher dimensions of peace. Others are drawn toward unfinished energy, attachments, regrets, unresolved emotion. This does not mean punishment, it means reflection. If there are parts of you still entangled in the density of your earth life, you may linger in realms that mirror those entanglements. These states are temporary. They are healing spaces, not eternal destinations. They give you the opportunity to process what could not be processed before, to release what must be released before your next step can unfold. And then comes the great moment, the crossing. Here, you are presented with the opportunity to either merge back into the greater field of divine consciousness or to return to the cycle of incarnation. Some souls choose to rest in the realms of light for extended periods. Others, driven by love, compassion, or unfinished purpose, choose to come back to Earth or another dimension to continue evolving. This is not a forced return. It is a soul-level decision, made with full awareness of what it entails. All of this may sound distant, mysterious, even abstract, but the truth is, you are already connected to the bardo. Every night when you sleep, every time you meditate deeply, every moment you detach from the noise of the world and drop into the silence within, you are brushing against those states. You don't have to wait until death to begin preparing for them. In fact, preparing now is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Learn to let go, learn to forgive, learn to be present in your body, while remembering that you are not just your body. Because when the time comes, you won't be afraid. You will recognize the signs, you will know how to navigate the shifts. You will move through the bardo not as a lost soul, but as a conscious traveler returning home. The fear of death melts when you realize that death is not an ending, it is a transition, a sacred unfolding, a continuation of the soul's long and luminous journey through experience, expression, and expansion. And when your time arrives, you will not be alone. You will be greeted by those who have walked before you. You will be held in a love that is older than time. You will remember, you will release, and you will rise. What if I told you that if you could glimpse even a fraction of what lies beyond this life, the very idea of death would no longer frighten you, it would free you. That instead of a void or a judgmental gate, you would find yourself immersed in a presence so powerful, so overwhelmingly beautiful, that it would dissolve every fear, every wound, every belief that told you you were anything less than divine. Across cultures, across continents, and across centuries, people who have crossed to the other side and returned speak of one thing above all others, love. Not the love you've been taught in human terms, not the kind that flickers or depends on conditions, but a love so complete, so unconditional, that it absorbs every part of you, even the parts you've hidden from yourself. This love is not just a feeling, it is a field, it is the very substance of the afterlife. You do not encounter it like an object or an entity, you merge with it, you become it. People describe it as light, but not a harsh or blinding light, more like a radiant presence that glows from within everything. It's warm, intelligent, infinite. It sees you, not as you appeared in life, not by your mistakes or your achievements, but as your soul truly is, whole, sacred, and eternal. And in that moment of being seen, all the weight you carried falls away. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove your worth. You realize you always were enough. In this space, there is no fear, no shame, no anger. There is only clarity and peace. It's like returning to the womb of the universe itself, where every fragment of separation dissolves. Many describe it as the first time they have ever truly felt what it means to belong. You belong not because you've earned it, but because you are it. You are made of this light, and all along, it was calling you home. Some people speak of being greeted by beings of light, not necessarily angels in the traditional sense, but radiant presences that communicate without words, through vibration and knowing. These beings do not scold or question, they guide, they celebrate, they embrace, and above all, they remind you that you are loved beyond measure. The love you receive there is not based on anything you did, it is not reserved for the few, it is for everyone. It is the baseline reality of the soul realm. You are not tested, you are not put on trial. You are welcomed, and in that welcome is the healing of everything you carried in silence. This environment of light is not static. It flows, it moves, it responds to your consciousness. Thought becomes creation, emotion becomes color, intent becomes structure. The more aligned you are with love, the more expansive your experience becomes. This is why so many say that the afterlife is more real than this world. Because everything there is direct and transparent. There is no distortion, nothing is hidden, and yet, nothing is feared. Even your darkest moments are seen through the lens of compassion. You understand why you made the choices you did. You see the wounds behind the actions, you see the intentions beneath the pain, and in that vision, you find peace. This is not a paradise reserved for saints, this is not a fantasy for the pure, this is your origin, this is where you came from, and this is where you will return. The light that surrounds you is the same light that animates you now, it's just that here, on earth, it's filtered, it's muted by the density of form, but it never disappears. You've felt glimpses of it in moments of deep stillness, in meditation, in awe, in love, in grief. You've touched it when time stood still, and you remembered, just for a second, that you are more than a body. What makes the afterlife so overwhelming is that in those moments, you are not just touching the light, you are fully immersed in it. And because you are no longer confined by the limitations of form or fear, you absorb it completely. It teaches you without words, it heals you without effort. And in that healing, you remember your true identity. Not the one given to you by society or family or trauma, but the one etched into your soul from the beginning. You remember that you were created in love, that your essence is light, and that no experience, no failure, no regret could ever alter that truth. The light is not separate from you, it is you. But here's the miracle. Once you've touched it, even for a moment, something changes in you. You begin to carry that awareness back into your life. You start seeing people differently. You start speaking from a deeper place. You stop chasing approval, because you already feel accepted at the highest level. And when life becomes difficult, when grief, loss, or fear arises, you hold on to that knowing. You remember the light, and you know that this is all temporary, that, beneath the chaos, love remains. Many who return from this realm say the same thing. I didn't want to come back. Not because life is meaningless, but because the other side is so complete, so liberating, so true. But they also say this: I came back with a mission. To share what I felt, to live differently, to love more fiercely, to remind others that death is not the end. It is a return to what has always been. A reunion with the source. A homecoming into the arms of light. You may wonder, if this place is so real, why can't we all remember it now? Why can't we live every day with that awareness? The answer is both simple and profound. Earth is a school, a dense, complex, emotionally rich experience, and within that density, we grow. We remember piece by piece. The veil is not a punishment, it's a container for evolution. But it is not impenetrable. Through love, through presence, through inner work, the veil thins, and the light begins to shine through. The more you align with love, the more of the other side you begin to carry here. You don't have to wait for death to experience this light. It's already within you. It's in your breath. It's in your heart. It's in your stillness. The doorway is not in the sky. It is in your awareness. And when you step through it, you begin to live from a different place. You bring heaven to earth, one thought, one word, one action at a time. So no, the other side is not a distant dream. It is the truth that has been whispering to you since you were born, in your longing, in your wonder, in your moments of grace. It is love without condition. It is light without limit, and it is waiting, not to take you away, but to welcome you home. When that moment comes, you will not be afraid, you will not be alone. You will be seen, held, and embraced by the very love that created you. And you will know, not believe, not hope, but know, that you were never separate. You were always part of the light, and you always will be. From the moment you took your first breath, you stepped into a lesson. Not a punishment, not a random collection of events, but a carefully designed series of experiences meant to grow you in ways only this realm could provide. Earth, in all its beauty and chaos, is not your final destination. It is your school, a place where souls come not to settle, but to evolve, a temporary stop on a far greater journey. And though the lessons here can be painful, though the challenges can make you forget who you are, the truth remains, this is not your home. You've likely felt it before, in quiet moments between noise and movement. That subtle ache in your heart, a longing that doesn't seem to have a clear source. Not a desire for a person or a place, but something deeper. A yearning for a kind of peace, a kind of belonging, that you've never quite found here. That feeling is not confusion, it's remembrance. It's the echo of your soul recalling where it came from. Because before you were a body, before you were a name or a story, you were light, you were presence, you were part of something whole and infinite. And entering Earth's atmosphere meant forgetting, for a little while, so that you could remember more deeply later. Earth is dense. It is rich with emotion, rich with polarity, rich with contrast, love and loss, joy and despair, connection and separation. It is the sharp edge of the soul's curriculum. You come here to feel the full spectrum, not because you are being punished, but because feeling is how the soul becomes conscious. Without darkness, you would never understand light. Without limitation, you would never reach for freedom. The friction here is what gives rise to awakening. You are not here to get everything right. You are here to experience, to choose, and to grow through that choosing. Imagine for a moment that your soul is sitting in a vast hall before birth, choosing its next set of lessons, not in the form of a checklist or a syllabus, but in energetic themes: patience, courage, forgiveness, surrender. These are not taught through words, they are learned through life. Through being betrayed and choosing to forgive, through losing everything and learning to trust, through loving someone who cannot love you back, and discovering your worth does not depend on their recognition. These are not accidents, they are sacred opportunities, and your soul knew, before you entered this life, that Earth would challenge you in exactly the ways you needed most. The people in your life, the ones you love and the ones who hurt you, are often your greatest teachers, not because they are perfect, but because their presence triggers the parts of you that still need healing. Relationships here are assignments, and sometimes the hardest ones come wrapped in the disguise of family or lovers or adversaries. That doesn't mean you must stay in harm's way or tolerate abuse. but it does mean that every person you meet carries a lesson, and the way you respond to them is part of your evolution. Earth is not an easy classroom. The veil here is thick. You forget your divinity. You mistake your pain for your identity. You fall into stories that were never yours to begin with. But even in your forgetting, your soul is learning. Even when you feel lost, you are still exactly where you are meant to be. Growth here is often slow. It unfolds in spirals, not straight lines. You revisit the same patterns again and again, not because you're failing, but because each return offers a deeper layer of understanding. You see, death is not the end of the story. It is graduation. It is the moment your soul closes one chapter and begins another, free from the heaviness of form. What you carry with you is not your possessions or your status or your mistakes. You carry the wisdom you've earned, the compassion you've cultivated, the truth you've lived, even if it was only in glimpses. That's what matters, not how perfect you were, but how deeply you tried to love, how willing you were to open, how bravely you met your own shadow. When you finally leave this body, you will not be met with judgment, you will be met with clarity. You will remember why you came. You will see how even your most painful moments were portals, ways your soul cracked open to let more light in, and you will see that none of it was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single mistake, not a single goodbye, it all served your becoming. The soul does not measure success the way the world does. It doesn't care how much you earned or how many people praised you. It cares about expansion, about alignment, about whether you lived in integrity with your deeper knowing. That is why you feel restless when you ignore your intuition. That is why something inside you breaks when you betray your truth. Your soul is not interested in comfort. It is interested in evolution, and sometimes evolution requires letting go of everything that kept you safe but small. You are not here to get stuck. You are here to remember your freedom. The systems of this world, rule. The fears, the expectations, the labels, rule, are part of the game, but they are not the truth. The truth is that you are an eternal being having a temporary experience, and while this body may feel like all there is, you are so much more than flesh and bone. You are consciousness in motion. You are divine energy, learning how to express itself through form, and when your time here is complete, you will return, not in defeat, but in wholeness. You will rejoin the greater field of light from which you came. You will remember that Earth was never meant to be a final destination. It was a place of immersion, a kind of cosmic boot camp for the heart. A sacred theater where you could forget who you were, only to rediscover it again with deeper humility and strength. So when life feels unbearable, when the lessons feel too heavy, remember that you chose this, not from a place of masochism or punishment, but from love. You chose it because you knew it would refine you, and you knew that who you would become on the other side of it would be worth everything. Earth is not your home, but it is your classroom, and every day, in every moment, you are learning something priceless, something that cannot be taught in books or doctrines, something that can only be known through living, loving, falling, breaking, and rising again. And when your soul is ready, it will return not as someone who failed or succeeded, but as someone who learned, someone who remembered, someone who grew into a greater version of themselves through the holy fire of life. This is not the end, this is the becoming, and your becoming is the real reason you are here. What if I told you that forgetting who you are was never a mistake? It was the first step in remembering why you came. That the amnesia you were born with was not some tragic flaw in the system, but a sacred agreement your soul made long before entering this world? You didn't forget by accident. You chose to. And you chose to, because the forgetting is what makes remembering so powerful, so meaningful, and so transformative. Before you were born, you knew. You knew yourself not as a body or a personality, but as a vast, radiant soul. Income, a being of infinite awareness, existing beyond time, beyond limitation. You were surrounded by love, clarity, and unity. There was no fear, there was no doubt, there was only the pure light of truth, and from that state of wholeness, you made a choice. You chose to descend into a world of contrast, a world of forgetting, a world where pain exists, where darkness exists, where separation feels real, not to be punished, but to evolve. And to do that, to truly grow, to truly experience free will, to make choices not because you were told what is right, but because you found your own truth, you had to forget. You had to forget your origin, your eternal nature, your divine connection. You had to believe, even if only for a while, that you were alone, that you were small, that you were lost. Because in that illusion of separation, the soul discovers something priceless: the ability to choose love anyway, the ability to find light in darkness, the ability to awaken, not because you were forced to, but because your heart led you there. This is the veil of amnesia, a kind of spiritual forgetting that cloaks your awareness as you enter the physical world. It is thick in the beginning. As a baby, you are pure presence, but unaware of your soul's full journey. As you grow, the veil remains, your fears, shaping your beliefs, your fears, your identity. You learn to navigate the world as a human being, not a soul in a body, but a body in a world. And in that learning, the veil serves its purpose. It keeps the game fair. It keeps the experience authentic. Because if you remembered everything from the start, every past life, every soul connection, every cosmic truth, it would alter the entire nature of your incarnation. You are not here to live life with all the answers preloaded. You are here to explore the questions, to touch mystery, to wrestle with duality, to forget, and then slowly, beautifully, begin to remember. This remembering is not intellectual. It is not about facts or data. It is a deep, soul-level recognition. A feeling that rises from within you when you hear something that resonates, when you read something that awakens you, when you sit in stillness and feel something ancient stir in your chest. That is the veil beginning to lift. It happens gradually for most. A moment here, a dream there, a sudden knowing that you've been here before, a connection with someone that feels older than time. A synchronicity so precise it leaves you speechless. These moments are not random, they are invitations, reminders, signs from your soul that you are on the path of remembrance. And the more you follow them, the more you listen to that inner whisper, the thinner the veil becomes. Sometimes the veil lifts dramatically, through spiritual awakenings, near-death experiences, deep meditation, or trauma that cracks open your identity. In those moments, people often describe feeling like they stepped out of the matrix. Everything becomes clearer, the illusions drop away. They remember not just that they have a soul, but that they are a soul, and always have been. And in that remembering, everything changes, priorities shift, relationships transform. Life is no longer about survival or achievement. It becomes about growth, service, love, and truth. But even then, the veil doesn't disappear completely. As long as you are in a physical body, some level of forgetting remains. It has to. Otherwise, the lessons of this world would lose their potency. The soul learns best not through theory, but through experience. It learns through contrast, through what it is not, in order to remember what it is. It learns compassion by knowing suffering. It learns presence by losing itself in distraction. It learns love by facing fear. You may wonder, why would any soul choose to forget? Why leave behind paradise for pain? The answer lies in what the soul values most: evolution, growth, expansion. Not for the sake of perfection, but for the richness of the journey. Earth is not a punishment. It is a master class. A sacred ground where souls come to deepen their wisdom, to feel what cannot be felt in the higher realms, to embody the teachings of the light within the density of form. And you chose to be here. Not because you had to, because you wanted to. Because your soul knew that in this forgetting, you would find something that even the highest heavens cannot offer: the raw, real, radiant transformation of awakening in the midst of chaos. The courage to remember your light when surrounded by shadows. The strength to choose love even when love seems absent. This is why spiritual awakening can be so disorienting. You're not just learning new things. You're remembering old things, ancient truths buried beneath lifetimes of forgetting. It's like waking up in a dream and realizing it was never real, but the lessons still mattered. And in that wakefulness, you begin to live differently. You begin to trust your inner voice more than outer noise. You stop identifying with every passing thought and start tuning in to the deeper knowing beneath them. You no longer look for answers outside of yourself, you begin to feel them rising from within. And as the veil continues to lift, you don't become perfect. You become aware. You still feel pain, but now you understand its purpose. You still face fear, but now you see it as a teacher. You still grieve, but now you know that nothing is truly lost. Everything is part of the soul's unfolding. Every moment, even the hard ones, is sacred. One day, when your time in this body is complete, the veil will fall away completely, and in that moment you will remember everything, not just your life, but your soul's journey across lifetimes. You will remember why you came, who you came with, what you came to learn, and most importantly, you will remember that none of it was random. Every step, every choice, every joy and every sorrow was part of a divine plan, a plan you helped design. And in that remembering, you will weep, not with regret, but with reverence, because you will see the beauty in the forgetting, the bravery it took to come here, the strength it took to walk blind and still choose love, and you will know, without doubt, that the forgetting was not a flaw, it was a gift. A sacred setup for the most meaningful kind of remembering there is, the kind you earn not through instruction, but through experience, the kind that doesn't just inform you, it transforms you. So, as you walk through this life, trust the process. Even when it feels like you've lost your way, even when the world feels heavy and confusing, know that your soul is always guiding you, that the veil is not permanent, that every moment of doubt is drawing you closer to your truth. And when that truth reveals itself, wronged, when the remembering comes, you will understand everything. You chose to forget, but you also chose to awaken, and that awakening is already happening, one breath at a time. You were never truly born in the way you imagine, and you will never truly die. What you call birth is simply your soul stepping into a temporary form, and what you call death is not an ending, it is a release, a homecoming, a return to the infinite field from which you came. Your soul is not a product of the body, it is the awareness behind the body, the observer that never ceases. It cannot be confined, and it cannot be destroyed, and when your body reaches its final breath, you do not disappear, you expand. You expand beyond the limits of time, of space, of form. You expand beyond the identity you thought was you, the name, the story, the fears, the victories. All of that dissolves like mist in the morning sun, and what remains is the real you, the eternal witness. The formless essence that has traveled through countless lifetimes, collecting wisdom, shedding illusions, remembering more of itself with each journey. You are not ending when you die. You are returning to the vastness you've always been. This expansion is not abstract. It is felt. It is real. In those moments after death, what so many describe is not darkness or silence, but clarity, a great unveiling, the sense that everything has meaning, that nothing was random, that the love you gave, the pain you endured, the kindness you offered, and even the mistakes you made, it all formed a perfect pattern. And as you begin to expand beyond the body, that pattern reveals itself not as a story of suffering, but as a story of becoming. You expand into truth, into remembrance, into a light that does not blind, but heals. It wraps around you with such tenderness that every fear you've ever held melts instantly. You begin to see what your soul always knew, that separation was the illusion, that you were never truly alone, that behind every face you encountered was a reflection of your own divinity, and the more you remember, the more you expand. There is no judgment in this expansion, no gatekeeper measuring your worth. The only weight that is lifted is the one you placed on yourself. And it lifts easily, almost effortlessly, when you remember who you are. You do not rise into heaven or fall into punishment. You rise into yourself, your full, unfiltered self. The self that is not bound by opinion or limitation or fear. You expand into a presence so vast, so loving, that you wonder how you ever forgot it in the first place. But forgetfulness was part of the journey. You agreed to forget so you could learn, so you could experience contrast, so you could know yourself not only as divine, but as courageous, resilient, curious, and vulnerable. Earth was the mirror, and now that mirror has shattered, not in destruction, but in revelation. And you can see now, without distortion, what you really are. You were never here to get it perfect. You were here to feel, to explore, to expand. And even now, as you release this chapter of physical life, your expansion continues. You're not fading away into nothing. You are merging back into everything. Every memory, every connection, every ounce of love you ever gave or received still exists. It lives in the field. It lives in you, and as you expand, you begin to feel it all at once, not in overwhelming waves, but in quiet, gentle knowing. There is no rush, there is only unfolding. Some say that what you become is light, but you are not becoming light. You are light. You are the awareness that shines behind every experience. And when your body no longer serves as the anchor, that light becomes unrestricted. It spreads into all directions at once. It touches every soul you've ever known, and they feel it. Sometimes as a sudden warmth, sometimes as a vivid dream, sometimes as an inexplicable sense that you are still near, because you are. You don't have to cling to your earthly identity because it was never all of you. It was just a mask you wore for a time, to learn a specific lesson in a specific setting. But the actor was always more than the role. And now the play is over. The stage lights dim, and the curtain falls. But the soul steps off that stage not with regret, but with grace. You bow to the story you lived, you honor it, and then you take your place once again in the eternal now. There is no ending, only return. You return to the source that breathed you into form, not as a fragment, but as a whole. More whole than you've ever felt. Because in this space, there is nothing missing. Every question is answered without being asked. Every wound is healed without explanation. You do not need to chase anything. You are already home. And yet, the expansion doesn't stop there. The soul continues to explore, to create, to express in ways beyond human comprehension. Some choose to rest, others choose to return. But none return as the same soul who left. You carry with you the imprint of everything you've lived, the wisdom you've gathered, the compassion you've earned, and that expansion shapes your next expression, whatever form it takes. When you lose someone in this life, it may feel like they are gone, but in truth, they have simply expanded beyond your current field of perception. They have not vanished, they have shifted. And their love, their essence, their presence, it still touches you. You sense it in quiet moments, in synchronicities, in the softness of your heart when you think of them. That's not your imagination, that's their expansion touching yours. One day, your own expansion will do the same. You will leave behind the suit of flesh and move into something vast and luminous. And when you do, you'll look back not with sadness, but with awe. You'll see how every hardship carved a deeper capacity for love. You'll see how every ending was actually a doorway. You'll see that life on earth was never meant to last, because what you are was never meant to be contained. You are consciousness. You are awareness. You are an eternal traveler learning through contrast and reunion. You are not here to die. You are here to expand, and you've been expanding this whole time. With every lesson, every choice, every act of courage and kindness, your soul has been growing. And now, as this chapter closes, that expansion only accelerates. This is not the end, this is the return. And the return is not to a place, but to a state of being. One where you are fully known, fully loved, fully free. You are not a spark that will flicker and fade. You are the flame itself, timeless, radiant, and endlessly becoming. When your last breath comes, do not fear it. Welcome it. It is not your fall. It is your flight. You don't die, you expand.